Here we go. Look, if you want to find ways to improve your contracting business and you're kind of curious about things like running your business like a real business, and you want to find ways to work smarter, not just harder, and you want to finally solve the frustration that you feel in the areas of time, team, money, growth, exit strategy, sales, marketing, people, hiring, recruiting, all those things, and you're looking for tips and tricks and shortcuts, then welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. This is exactly where we talk about the business of construction and contracting. So you can learn exactly how to move from feeling like a contractor with a crew, maybe just a couple of people, to becoming a business person who just happens to be a contractor. And yes, there is a difference. Now, today's guest is Doug Winston from DNM Electrical, and our topic is construction pricing tips. The job I won today was bid 6 months ago. We've all encountered that situation, especially back during the pandemic, but it's still happening. And with time being such a concern as we're taking on more jobs and job times are extending, you might be getting caught in some of these same traps that Doug wants to talk to us about. Let's see the world through Doug's eyes and see what we can learn. Can you find nuggets of wisdom for your business in what he shares today? I'm also going to throw in a coaching challenge for you. You know, I love my coaching challenges. I want you to listen very carefully to what Doug has to say about pricing, the insanity of matching your competitor's price, escalation clauses, getting young kids interested in the trades, all the sorts of things that might be rolling around in your head already. Try to find some actions. See where Doug has maybe led the way a little bit and see if you can learn something from that, something you can apply to your own business. And then ask yourself, what has been holding you back from making those changes? Is it having the good ideas? Is it having somebody to bounce those ideas off of? Is it just the accountability of knowing that somebody's going to be holding you accountable for doing what you need to do? I'm not sure what it is, but today's a great place to start. Okay. What's holding you back and what do you need to do to get unstuck? And then, if you're in that mode already, imagine what your company would look like if you already did those things. That's what the show is about. And that's what Doug's here to share with you. Listen, I want you to pull something valuable out of today. That's your job. My job is to have a great interview with Doug. Your job is to find something that you could put in place in your business. Make one small change. This podcast comes out every 2 weeks. And so over the course of a year, you're going to get quite a few episodes, right? Out of a 52-week year, you're going to get about 25 episodes. If you implemented one little thing from every episode, imagine the changes, the impact that you would have on the business. It's never going to be the same. You're going to continually make it better. That's what I want for you. All right, let's get to the segment. Let's hear what Doug has to say about construction pricing tips. I bid the job that I won today 6 months ago. Let's see what he has to say. Mr. Doug Winston, how are you?
How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be talking. I mean, we've talked.
Yes, we have.
We've talked. We had good conversations, actually.
We absolutely did.
There's a lot to talk to you about. You're a deep well of stuff.
I know a little bit about a lot of things and a lot about a few things. So.
Yeah. The thing that I remember, and we're going to, let me repeat our topic so everybody knows what we're talking about. You're an electrical expert, DNM Electrical.
Electrical and utility contractor, correct.
That's right. So big stuff. But what I remember from our first conversation is how your teacher at school tried to stop you from going into the trades, or they badmouthed
a bit. Kind of. You a little bit there. There's a little background in there. So let me bring you up to speed on that. So actually, when I was 17 years old, I went to Catholic school, had to see the guidance counselor who was a nun before I could graduate. Yeah. And she picked up my file, looked at it, and she said, "What do we have here? Mr. Winston." And she's looking and she goes, "You're going to Westchester Community College for Electrical Engineering Technology." She throws the file down and goes, "What kind of a BS course is that?"
That's not very non-language.
Except she said that she said it out loud.
Full word.
Yeah. She didn't abbreviate. So I looked at, "Excuse me, sister?" And she says, "Yeah, what gives? Why aren't you taking engineering?" I said, "I don't want to be an engineer." She goes, "Why? What's wrong with being an engineer?" I said, "I don't want to sit behind a desk. I hate math. It's not what I want to do." She says, "Well, you could be a field engineer." I says, "No, I'm not interested. I don't want to be an engineer. Just the thought of doing math is just getting through school. I just can't do it. It's not interesting. It doesn't interest me." So she looks, she goes, "What interests you? What are you going to do when you leave here today?" So, well, I'm going over to John Carrillo's house. I'm going to help him with his 68 Cougar he's building. I'm going to put the stereo in and wire that up. And she goes,
Not
"You like to
bad.
do electrical stuff?" I go, "Yeah, I want to do something in the electrical field." She goes, "Why don't you be an electrician?" I said, "Well, I don't want a blue collar job." She goes, "You just told me you don't want to sit behind the desk. Do you even know what an electrician does?" I go, "No." She goes, "Do you have any relatives that are electricians?" "Yeah, my cousin's an electrician. He owns his own business." She
Yeah.
goes, "Okay, well, you're going to go home. You're going to call him and you're going to ask him if you could work for him this summer." And I was like, "Okay, sister." And I walked out of there and went home, told my mother. She said, "Oh, that's good. She thinks that'll help you in college." And I go, yeah. So we promptly get in touch with my cousin Al, who
Yeah.
tells me to meet him at his new house, not his old house. Mind you, guy's 32 years old. He's been in business for a few years. And literally, when I say a few, I mean like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And I go to his new house, and he says, "I'm looking at this brand new 3,000 square foot center hall colonial. I'm looking around." He goes, "What do you think? You like it?" I go, "Oh, yeah, it's nice." He goes, "I got no mortgage." "You what?" "Yeah, no mortgage." I'm like, "How'd you do that?" He says, "Well, a house I built in Tuckahoe, I sold." He
Yeah.
says, "And then this piece of property I bought for cash. It was one house that was on two lots. I knocked it down, subdivided the property, sold off the other lot, and I got no mortgage." And I'm like,
Sweet.
wow. So he proceeded to tell me what an electrician does every day. And the more he told me, the more I liked. And by the time I left there, I had it all in my head and said, "You know what? I'm going to get my electrical license by the time I'm 25, and I'm going to build a house by the time I'm 30." And it's like, okay, I planned out my whole world.
Done.
And the only obstacle I had left in front of me was the dean of engineering at Westchester Community College. He's the one who pushed back hard. So
Ah,
I had to
okay.
go see him to get my money back. So
Oh, because you were supposed to go to college, but you canned that to go work for your cousin
correct,
Al. I see.
correct,
Okay, that's why he
correct.
was pushing back because he had your money.
He had my money. So he was a really big, very intimidating looking fella. And he looked at me and he said, "What's this I hear, boy? You want your money back?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And I politely explained to him the entire story I just told you and said,
Mm.
and I've got a plan. I want to be an electrical contractor. I want to own my own business. And, so if you just give me my money back." And he looks and he goes, "You're lazy, boy. That's your problem." I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "You're lazy. You're looking for an easy way out." Yeah, that's not what you're not listening.
You don't sound like a lazy guy.
Right? Yeah. So I'm trying to explain to him as politely as I can, and he keeps coming back with, "You want to be a wire jerk?" I said, "No. I said to you, I want to be an electrical contractor. I
Mm.
want to own my own business."
Mm.
And he goes, "When you're 50 years old and you're working outside in the cold, you're going to think of me when Mother Nature's beating on you, and you're going to be miserable, and you're going to wish you listened to me. Now, what do you say? You just need somebody like me to kick your butt. What do you say?" And I said, "I say you can send my money back to the address on that paper right there. You can
You
go
just
to
held
business."
firm, did you?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I never thought about him again, probably for at least 10 years. And 10 years later, I'm in business for 3 years, and I get my first public work job, and it's at Westchester Community College. And I'm walking down
No.
the hallway, and who's strolling down the hallway the other direction? There he is. And I
I
only
I
remember
have John Goodman in my mind, just so you know, the way you're portraying him.
he, he actually was probably as big as John Goodman. He was very dark complexion, and the most notable thing was he was obviously a burn victim and had some really heavy scarring on his face. So the guy couldn't be any more intimidating looking. And you obviously saw him and you remembered who he was.
Right.
And the one thing that stood out in my mind, that guy was wearing the same suit he was wearing the day he ripped into me.
Mm.
I looked and I was gonna, nah,
Not
nah,
worth it.
it's my energy. Now I got a business to run, and I walked out. And that was probably the last time I thought about him until the story came up. So
yeah, quite the business,
yeah.
by the way. DNM Electrical. You do
Yep.
railroads. You do heavy.
Doing utility work. Yep. We do
Yeah.
industrial and utility type of work, high voltage work. We install utility poles. We run, cables underground in manholes. We do, construct towers and, things of that nature. So just
And
celebrated our 30th anniversary literally Saturday.
nice. 30th anniversary, but there's 3 divisions. 30. That's 3
We
to
do.
10 years
We do.
at least.
We
right?
have DNM Electrical is our parent company.
Yeah.
And then we have DNM Utility. DNM Utility handles all that heavy utility work. So when there's, let's say, a hurricane that's hitting Florida, and you see those convoys of bucket trucks heading down there, well, some of those are ours. So we'll send crews down there, and those guys will work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week at double time, and make themselves a whole lot of money.
Right. And you also repair those bucket trucks because why not? Because I'm Doug Winston and you can't scare me.
Well, you look, everything has its, a rhyme and a reason to it. And what happened was probably around 2008, 2009, we started to accumulate a good sized fleet of trucks, and we realized there's nobody that really knows how to fix these things. So we were paying people a lot of money to travel to us and to do the work on the trucks. And in 2012, I finally decided that I had a mechanic working for me full time. People started asking me, hey, who can I get to fix my truck? And I said, you know what? I'll send you my mechanic. And then it dawned on me, like, why don't we open up our own company here? So we opened that in 2012. And then in 2015, I took on a partner, and we really scaled the business. And we've probably scaled it about 500% since then. So,
okay. So it's a serious concern on its own.
It's a good business, but what it really does is that, in addition to maintaining our fleet of trucks, we have no lost productivity, because if we're not working on our trucks, we're working on somebody else's trucks. So there's no busy work. We're busy either making money or fixing, what needs to be fixed. So it helps offset overhead, for the parent company, and yet still turns a profit as its own standalone entity. So it's a win-win.
So now I want everybody to be aware that I'm trying to get them to smile at this point when I say, but wait, there's more.
There's more.
So Doug, what do you do in your spare time?
What I do I do a lot of things in my spare time.
I know. You know the one I'm talking about, though.
I make wine.
So do I.
I like to build cabinets and weld things.
Oh, gee.
But what I really like to do, what you're getting at, is I like to race cars. So yes, I race in a professional.
And now people are listening that he does what?
I race in the Pirelli Trans Am series, and I run. I campaign what we call the Pro Am Challenge, which is 6 of the 12 races in the season. So we declare the 6 races we're going to run beginning of the year, and they score our points. So I was happy to win at Sebring, first race of the season this year down in Florida.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Didn't have much good luck in Atlanta, second race of the season. Put the car in the wall at about 157 miles an hour when a tire got punctured.
But you're okay. Like, you were in
the car. Crew put the whole car back together. We were ready for the race. And then when they said, drivers, start your engines, we had a 25-cent O-ring leaking oil. So it's just the way it goes. We went from first place to last place. But last weekend, we had a good, strong finish at Lime Rock, and moved back up into third place. So we're sitting okay here. We're in a good position coming in halfway point of the season. So
yeah. So there's a segue here. There's a crossover, because at some point in today's interview, we're also going to talk about bring back the trades. And I went and did some research on you, and I saw the logo for bring back the trades right on the front hood.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Well done.
So I got involved with Bring Back the Trades probably about 2 years ago. I happened to be just perusing LinkedIn one afternoon while I'm having lunch, and I see Bring Back the Trades, and I go, oh, now that's an entity I could really be involved with.
Right.
And I click on the link, I look at it, and I sent a message to Steve Turner, who's the founder, and I said, hey, listen, you know what? I'm all in for this, because, we really, really, really need
it.
Skilled trades advocates, and we really need kids to get some guidance and get good people routed into the trades here. I said, in fact, I got an idea. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the prime real estate, which is the hood of my car. We're going to put The Bring Back the
that's
Trades
how it
logo
came.
on here. I said, I'm going to do a reverse sponsorship with you guys, and we're going to raise money towards your efforts. So what Bring Back the Trades does is primarily two things. Number one, they give scholarships to kids that want to go to trade school every month. And number two is they hold Bring Back the Trades days. And basically these are career fairs where they'll go to an area, set it up. Local businesses will come in and they will bring their tools of the trade. The excavator brings a backhoe and a pile of rocks and lets a kid sit and operate the
that's
bucket,
got to be fun.
things around.
That's good. Yeah, brings out the Bart Simpson and all of us right there.
You got it. I mean, then we'll he'll have the plumber out there who will let the kids cut a couple of pieces of pipe and flux them, put them together, and then he'll sweat them. I'm not going to let the kids handle the torch, but that kind of thing. Same thing. The electrical guys will bring some boxes and some wire and let the kids get a hands-on experience and find out what does an electrician do, what does a plumber do. And it's not just limited to the construction trades.
Yeah, you've got bakers and hairdressers.
Absolutely.
All those trades.
These are all skilled trades, and these are all things we need. So that's pretty much what the whole Bring Back the Trades movement's about. And I've become pretty passionate about it, and doing as much as I can do. We're going to start trying to move some of these trade exhibitions down into the New York metropolitan area in the near future. So.
Well, let me know how I can help, but we'll have that as a side conversation.
You got it.
Let me restate the title so that we get into it. That was all the warm up.
You got it.
Are you feeling warmed up?
I'm warm.
You're warm now. You're ready to go.
Let's do it.
So today we're going to be talking about construction pricing tips. I bid at today's price, but that was 6 months ago. That's our general topic. And obviously you've felt the heat of that happen.
You couldn't be in any business today and not have been impacted by escalation. Escalation is probably one of the biggest problems next to a labor shortage that we're facing today. And it's obviously very important as a contractor to be able to know how to mitigate these effects. And sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, and you have to use what's happening now to try to help things in the future. But
can I interrupt you for a second? Because I want to assume that some people here have this problem where they bid something and now it's a new price as they go to do the job. So they might not know what escalation means or what an escalation clause is.
We use the term escalation. It's very, very simple. Let's say, okay, I'm a home improvement contractor, and now I gave Mrs. Jones a price to do her kitchen over. But now the cabinets are 20% more and all the wiring is 50% more because the price of copper's gone up. And by the way, the price of PVC is through the roof and he can't even get it. So now the price that I gave yesterday, 6 months later, I'm going to lose money to build that job. So, what do we do in these situations? And it comes back to a lot of things. So at the risk of playing barstool lawyer, I'm going to try to interject as little legal terminology as possible, but yet try to give you some perspective from a legal standpoint, right? So the first question is there a contract? Now, a lot of home improvement contractors and smaller contractors are going to turn around, they're going to write a proposal, and very simply, the customer signs that proposal, accepts it, and that's kind of the contract for the job. And, they write their terms on there, a third, and I get a down payment, I get this, I get that. Well, if you've taken money on the job already, your best bet is to probably give back the deposit and tell them, I can't do the job. That's your best bet. And that maybe at that point, they're willing to negotiate with you and say, look, here's what's happened. Now, it all depends if there's a contract. A lot of times you're doing a bigger job and, there's an architect involved and, they may be using him for construction management services, and there may be a contract. Well, whose contract is it? Is it your contract? Is it their contract? If you signed their contract, maybe you used something like the AIA 101, which is a basic form that most architects will use for a basic construction project. And when you get into the nuts and bolts of that, we talk about force majeure clauses, and that's a French word which basically means major force.
Right.
And what it means is something has happened that is going to severely impact this project, whether it be a hurricane, a pandemic, or a shortage of material. And typically what it's going to say in there, if they've left the boilerplate language, is that, well, your sole remedy is an extension of time. So take a little extra time to do it, but you're not getting any more money.
So it's important to read those contracts, because that
Very
might be
important.
your only back door
Right.
is you can take extra time, but no more extra money.
Correct. So what you may need to do in those situations, and again, it's good to try not to get ourselves in these situations. So how do we do it? So they present you with a contract. A lot of people think, well, either I have to sign the contract or I have to walk away. Well, it's not true at all. You can very simply, without spending a lot of money for an attorney, you can go to that contract and you can, what we call, redline it. You go in there and you cross out some stuff and you write in there and say, contractor reserves the right, if there are serious escalation in the cost of the job, he reserves the right to get paid for that escalation. And basically he's got to prove it. He shows the invoice. He shows, here's the quote I got from the supply house, and here's the price it's going to cost me now. And all I'm asking for you is the difference. And, you can put that in very simple layman's terms and have it inserted, or you can maybe go to your attorney and ask him to give you some verbiage to put in there. But whether it's your contract or his, you really always want to have that in there. It's an important thing to have. So these are really simple concepts, but most of the time they get overlooked in the excitement of, oh, this is a great job, and I just got the job, and we're busy, we need the job, and we sign the contract, and we go to work, and now, oops, we're stuck with the terms and conditions that somebody else set forth for us. So,
it's it's a contract. And usually if you're working for a big contractor, they've got a lawyer, or they've done this before and they know how to dig their heels in. And
look, but maybe you're working for a homeowner and the architect wrote the contract because the owner says, I don't know anything about this. What do I do? And they pay him a little money for, construction management services. And basically he administrates the payments every month. And he's the one who looks and says, yes, you are 20% done with rough framing. We'll pay you 20% for rough framing. And you are 10% done with plumbing. We'll pay you 10%. And, it's that type of deal, progress billing. But, a lot of these situations are probably stuff that most smaller contractors haven't experienced. They're used to just kind of giving a proposal with their terms and conditions. And then they get into the bigger jobs. They find out that, we got to read the fine print. So, this is important.
Did you learn all this stuff from your cousin Al, or did you just school of hard knocks, did it wrong, fixed?
So my cousin Al was a small contractor who probably, never had more than 4 or 5 employees, and did mostly, we did a wide variety of work. It mostly was new houses. So it was very simple. He had the proposal that he gave to the customer. They signed it. They had their deal. Back in the day, you got paid a third, and a third. Means you got a third up front, a third when you did the work, and a third when you finished and gave them the final inspection. And those were the ways it was done back in the day. And I suspect it's probably still that way, in the developer market today. But no, when I went out on my own, I craved doing something different. I did not want to be, I get bored easy. Someone said to me, what do you attribute your success to? And I said, boredom. What do you mean? I go,
business ADD. We call it business ADD.
Yeah, I get bored really easy, So early on, one of my first endeavors when we first went in business is we used to wire all the illuminated bus stops that had advertising in them. And we had a customer who had that franchise from the county. He had 250 locations. He wanted to put 50 more in. And we did the maintenance and the service and new installs. And it was a good little basis for us just to get our feet wet. So he was a good businessman. He liked us, and he taught us a lot of things on that. And then I had another very, very important mentor who my sister worked for a fence company very briefly. She was there very briefly, but I became good friends with the owner. Him and I actually became partners and owned this building that I'm sitting in right now together before.
And he was a fence guy. He did fencing.
He was a fence guy. They called him Phil the Fence. That was his name.
That's an awkward nickname, but I get you.
It's an awkward nickname. Well, you got to realize he was from the Bronx. And it just kind of that it all worked back then.
Build the
So
fence. Yeah.
yeah, Phil passed away in 2005, and I brought his daughter out. And but Phil taught me a lot about the construction industry. He was probably one of my earliest mentors in terms of learning how to navigate, the large contract kind of stuff out there. And he definitely was very helpful and taught me a lot of that. And I had a lot of great mentors along the way who taught me. But again, the internet's a great thing. So
Yeah.
as we
Well, things
moved
have changed
along,
now. There's so much information out there, but it's almost harder to find it in the right order that's
yeah,
aimed at what you
yeah.
need at the right time.
I was probably a good time. I went in business in 1993, and by 1995, I had my first computer, and we had AOL and dial-up, and you could kind of search for some things.
Yeah.
You could kind of find some stuff online that would give you some perspective. So, um, there was no one-stop shopping. It obviously was a lot of little places to find a lot of things and a lot of trial and error. Nobody. I recall I got my master electrician's license, and I said, I'm a master. And then, you go and open your own business, and you go, I'm an apprentice again.
Well,
You're
yeah,
an
nobody
apprentice
knows who you
business
are.
owner.
They're not beating down the door because you have a business card or whatever that says you're
Well,
a
it wasn't
master
even that. You know
electrician.
what? There was no lack of work. What was really intimidating was, well, we need an accountant because we got to pay taxes, and we got unemployment, and we got payroll taxes, and we need workman's comp, and we need liability insurance. And now I want to bid on that job. It's a bonded public job. So
Right.
you call your insurance agent and you go, hey, I need a bid bond. And your insurance agent goes, I don't even know what that is. And then he calls one of his buddies, and they go, oh, you're not getting that. And then you talk to a few people, and the guy says to you, how long you been in business, kid? 3 years. You got a financial statement? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop wasting your time. Go back to wiring houses. That's probably the worst thing you could tell me, is that I can't do something.
Yeah, apparently this is a recurring theme, Doug, is that when somebody says you can't do something, that's how I
Yeah.
got you on the show. I said, there's no way you'd be good enough for my podcast. And you're like, hey, Rubino, how about Tuesday at 2? That's my big, that was my big plan.
That's it. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to find somebody who said, here's the deal. I'm going to get you a $50,000 bonding line. You're going to do a couple of small jobs, and you're going to show them you can perform, and then we're going to get you bigger and bigger ones. And that's what we did. We did a couple of $50,000 jobs. We did a couple of $100,000 jobs, and then I turned around and I said, I got a little bigger job. And they go, okay, well, when's it bid? Well, I kind of bid already. I gave them a check as a deposit instead of a bid bond because I knew I couldn't get the bond. All right, how big's the job? $1 million. And he looked, all right. And he got me the bond, and we did the job, and, kind of allowed us to grow really a lot quicker at that point. So and it was a good time.
I'm curious to know, this goes back to the mentor question, but where do you get your mindset that nothing's going to stop you? Because it seems like no is not an option.
Well, I'm going to say that, I've probably always been a little stubborn, but I think the never surrender attitude came when I was 19. I ended up having stage 3 testicular cancer. And
At 19.
At 19. And I think that challenge brought me to a point where you either are going to live or you're going to die. And I made the decision that I'm not ready to die. And
that's a tough thing to hear at any age, but at 19 it's worse, because at 19 you're ready to go.
It is, but I was fortunate enough to be strong, young, and stupid. And the doctors I became the first person in non-clinical trials to try a new protocol. Prior to me, the cure rate was about 1%. After me, it was 99%. So I am number 187 somewhere in the New England Journal of Medicine. But
wow,
I was very fortunate. And then the opposite happens, because I was kind of probably a little bit of not very confident as a kid. Now you become like quite cocky at that point. It's like, I'm indestructible. I can't die. I'm immortal. And you do a lot of stupid things. But at some point it all kind of levels out, and you use that energy towards positive things.
But I want to say great story, but that's disrespectful to the fact that you were very sick. But you know what I mean? That's an interesting turn. Story.
But let me put it in perspective. A lot of people, I think I dated a handful of girls who thought I was out of my mind because I used to joke about it and I would say, cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me. They said, you're sick. That's sick. I said, no, it made a man out of me. It taught me what was important. It taught me not to get caught up in BS. It taught me how to prioritize what I want and what I don't want. And better yet, not to waste my energy on people that are negative. And, there was people that just looked and said, you're sick, you need therapy.
You're crazy.
There was other people who said, I get it. I hang out with those people that say, I get it.
Yeah, that's right. You choose who you hang out with. I had a conversation earlier today with somebody who was amazed that this leadership discussion, the kind of thing we're talking about now, isn't common. He's trying to talk to his brothers about it and another partner in the business.
Right.
He's like, Dom, why aren't they getting it? And
Yeah.
you know what I did is I shared screen with him, and we clicked down to his city, and then we zoomed out and we looked at the entire United States, then all of North America. And we did some math. We figured out there's probably 1,200 people like him, because he's in construction. He chose to get a business coach. He chose to look forward in his life. And you could do some math and figure out across all of North America, there's not that many people. And so, of course, it's hard to go out there and find people who agree with you or even go down the same path, because this is not a normal conversation. Thank God for podcasts. Otherwise, this discussion between you and I, number one, may never have happened. And number two, nobody else would be able to hear it. You might be my mentor, and I might hear it because I knew you through somebody else, but no one else would ever get a chance to dial into this story.
Yeah, no, it's true. We're in a great time and place for a lot of things. Unfortunately, when you talk about leadership, I think that's one of the things that we're sorely lacking. And I think one of the reasons why is that it stems from this whole college for all mindset, where we are telling every kid they got to go to college and get a white collar job, and it's beneath them to be a blue collar worker, and the skilled trades are a dead end. And you want to be a wire jerk, you want to be a pull turds from a toilet. And, there's this horrible perception of the skilled trades, where I think most of your critical thinking comes from actually doing things. People say, oh, college is for critical thinking. College has become a think tank where people tell you this is what you have to think. This is the way you should think. Nobody's challenging you to think outside the box. They're telling you exactly how to think. So if they're telling you how to think, how do we raise leaders from that? We don't. We're creating sheeple. So, at the end of the day, people that have the ability to look past this really twisted narrative that college for all is the only way you're going to be successful.
The only way. It's not the only way.
Of course it's not. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-college. I'm anti-college for all. What I believe is that we need to introduce kids to all careers early on, starting maybe in middle school, and start to show them this is what a plumber does. This is what an electrician does. This is what a mason does. This is what a doctor does. This is what a lawyer does. This is what an engineer does. And let their brains start to find where they're gravitating towards. Let them find their passion. So by the time they go to high school, we can kind of go back to that old school way that we used to look at high school. Prior to the 1980s, I would say, high school was intended to prepare you for the workforce and to prepare a select few people for professional endeavors, doctor, lawyer, engineer. It was not intended. And college was supposed to be something special because not everyone went. Well, when everyone goes to 13th grade, there's nothing special about it anymore. So at the end of the day, if we can just turn around and let kids make informed decisions about the things that excite them,
right?
You can't teach someone something they have no interest in. You can go and one of the things that like really turns
That's a great point. That's a great point. You just can't, if they don't want to be a computer coder, they're never going to learn it.
You can force somebody to memorize something for the purpose of standardized testing, and they can get a great grade. But I can guarantee you that 5 years from now, if you have a discussion with them about it, number one, they don't remember any of it. And number two, they don't care because they're not interested. So let's find where your interest lies, because where your interest lies is where you're going to apply your passion. And passion equates to success. So I don't care. One of the things I'll never forget, my daughter was in high school and went to private school. And her principal was a former research scientist.
Mm.
And she's pounding her fists, going, "We need more girls in research." And I looked and I said, "What if they're not interested in research? Why do we need them? Who needs them? Who needs them? We need people in research who are passionate about research. We need people who are passionate about baking cakes to bake cakes. We need people that are passionate about cutting hair to cut hair.
Mm.
And we need people that are passionate about being healthcare professionals, which is what my daughter became.
Mm.
She's a nurse. I mean, look, did I have maybe some thought that maybe she'd be interested in my business? Of course. When she was 15 years old, I brought her in the office. I made her work here for 2 summers, and she said, "That's the best thing you ever did." I said, "Why?" She goes, "Because it taught me I want nothing to do.
I want nothing to do with. I know too much about electrical now. Yeah,
that's great. That's perfectly 100% okay." And she loves what she does, and that's all I ever want for every kid, is for them to be as passionate about what they do for a living as all of the people that I associate with. Because I don't have time for people who go, "Well, yeah, I went to college for to be a computer programmer, but I really hate it, and I would have rather have done this." Why didn't you?
yeah,
"Well,
exactly. Why didn't you?
pays
It's
good money."
You paid good money, but you wasted it, which is fine. You paid
Right.
good
And you're
money to get an
miserable every day
education,
and you hate yourself.
right? And we see that too often. And there are a lot of people out there who are working at, let's say, Starbucks, who could be on our trades crew.
Sure.
And they might really enjoy themselves seeing something done at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You've got a sore back and maybe your arms hurt a little bit, but you turn back and you're like, "We put that wall up. We just put a second floor on that building, or we dug a big hole."
Listen,
Whatever you made.
Yourself as a skilled tradesman, especially in the construction industry, you can't drive down the street without going, "See that? I built
See that building?
You see that? We did that job.
Yeah.
See that?
I
That's
carried
the
all
second
that.
time they're renovating that. We built that.
That's right.
Right? And why? Pride, sense of pride. If you don't enjoy what you do and have a sense of pride in doing it, success is not coming for you. You're just going to go through the motions in perpetuity. You'll collect a paycheck and you'll show up and you will exist. You're never going to live.
Let me put this challenge out to everybody out there, because I might have trouble expressing myself the way you do, Doug. You're very eloquent. You know what you're talking about. People listening to this show, you might want to let one of your kids or your niece or your nephew listen to this show as well, so that they can hear another person talking about it. Go into the trade you want. And again, you could be a baker, you could be a veterinary assistant, whatever your trade is, go do what you want to do.
Right.
And you don't have to conform to what everybody says. You must become a lawyer or an accountant, or you're a failure. You're not. If you're not a pharmacist, it's okay. Be what you want to be. As a matter of fact, I got a call from a guy in Jamaica, of all places. He's a doctor who decided to run a cabinet shop because he loves cabinetry, and he's a doctor.
Sure.
Now, at the same time, it has to be the first time I've ever had a call from a tradesman who was a doctor trying to move from medical into cabinetry. But to your point, at least he's got the courage and the conviction to say, "I really like this. I'm going to go do that."
Yeah. I could tell you that over the years, I knew quite a few lawyers that got out of being a lawyer and got into becoming real estate developers after they made a little bit of money. And they said, "You know what? I'm much more comfortable doing this. And I don't want to wear a suit every day. And I'm out in the fresh air, and this is great. And I come to the job site." Listen, they found that passion, because somebody probably told them when they were really young, "You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a doctor. What do you want to be, a doctor or a lawyer?" That was me. My grandmother would always twist my arm and go, "Don't you want to be a doctor?" "No, Grandma, not interested." "Don't you want to be a lawyer?" "No, zero interest. Not interested. Don't want to do it." Little you know that I'm a contractor, so do you want to be an engineer? No, I tell people. I'll never forget. I was doing a job once for New York State, and we came to him. We said, "We need a change order because this is no good. You can't do this." "What do you mean you can't do this?" I said, you can't hang your fire suppression system off of my light pole out here in this gas station we're building." He says, "Why not?" I said, it's not rated. Underwriters Laboratory hasn't evaluated that pole for the purpose of what you're doing." And they all go scrambled around. They turn around and they look, and finally comes back and they go, "He's right." You're going to have to change everything. And he goes, what are you, an engineer or a lawyer? I said, I'm a contractor. I'm a little of both.
A little of both.
Little of both.
Little of both. Well, you're really in a really interesting place where you've built the business. Clearly it's successful. You're able to race, you've got some balance there. What is it when you look around at other business owners, what frustrates you about what they could, and we're not pointing fingers at anybody,
right?
But I want the people listening to understand where you might see the changes that they need to make that they're not making.
I think the biggest problem that I see most of the time is that most people just don't know the numbers. What's your price for that? Oh, it's X amount of dollars an outlet. Okay, why? Well, that's what everybody does it for.
Oh, I don't want to hear that at all. Yeah.
No. Okay. And we look, and I'll never forget this. I was probably in business for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm sitting around at one of the trade association meetings, and there's a bunch of guys, and we're having beer afterward at the bar, and one of the guys goes, "So, did you get that job over on wherever off of Central Avenue?" And the guy goes, "No, I didn't get it. DNM took the job for like $5,000. And I said, "Yeah, well, actually, I didn't get the job. So-and-so got the job. He was cheaper than me." And as everyone talked, and we walked around, and they go, "Well, how much? What's your price?" And everybody goes, $25 an hour. I was $25 an hour. Well, I was $25 an hour. Everybody at the table was $25 an hour, right? Meanwhile, one guy was $12,000, and the other guy was $5,000. And we start to look at, okay, guys, hold on. Let's talk about this. How are you that much money with the same price? How are you that much money? Well, the guy, well, I charge extra for this. Oh, well, I don't count that. Well, I do this. Okay, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you say to them, how did you get to that number? Well, I don't know.
I just know.
They don't know. And well, how do you know if you made money? Well, my accountant tells me at the end of the year.
Oh, that hurts my stomach. Anybody who's waiting to the end of the year, that is the worst thing to do. It's so bad.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny because to take that discussion even further, I was on the board of directors of that association, and one night we're sitting around having dinner with the executive board, and somebody says, "Can you believe it? The town of Eastchester just raised their building permit fees 1.5%. That's ridiculous for an electrical permit." I said, "Why? Why is it a problem?" "Oh, that's coming out of my pocket." "Why would it be coming out of your pocket?" "That's a direct job cost. That's a direct job cost. You add that. Oh, you don't understand how it works." Of course I understand how it works. You don't understand how it works. Do you even understand the difference between direct costs and overhead? And one of the guys was an older guy, been in business for a long time, and he goes, well, maybe Mr. Big Shot Union Contractor, you should have a class and teach all of us how to estimate. And one of the other guys goes, "That's actually a really good idea. Would you teach an estimating class?" Well, I taught that class. And I started, it was a 2-month class. We did it over the course of 2 different meetings in 2 months. And they're probably the biggest attended classes that were ever done by that association, because we started at the basics. And I go, before we could talk about estimating, we need to understand our costs.
And
what's your overhead?
What's your labor? What's your
that's it. And we say, guys, give me examples of your overhead. And the guy goes, workman's comp, liability. I go, wrong and wrong. "What do you mean?" "It's not. It's a component of payroll." What is wrong with you? What are you talking about? I write a check out. I said, "No, you write a deposit based on how much you think your payroll is going to be."
Right.
If your guy doesn't work this for a week, you don't pay any workman's comp on him. At the end of the year, they do an audit. They add up the payroll, and you pay a percentage of that. Really? I didn't know that. Yeah. And the same thing for liability insurance.
And Doug, this is the challenge that we all have, and I'm speaking on behalf of people listening, is we didn't get into this business because we love math. Well, you said that, and I don't like math either. I don't. You know what I love, though? I like the patterns and the numbers. I don't mind telling you, I like to see pretty graphs and pie charts and graphs and things that go up and to the right and down and to the left when they're supposed to. That's what I like. But the reason people don't track their numbers is because it's boring. But the problem is the money's. I don't know if it's because it's boring. I truly don't think it is. I think it's just they're oriented in a different mindset in which they conform to however the industry has set forth. It's like, you will do this for this price because everyone does it for this price. That's what everybody else is charging.
Maybe you're the rebel and raises your price $1. Okay. But at the end of the day, nobody could actually tell you. And, we had this argument and they're like, so you're telling me if I estimate a house, I have to figure out how much that piece of Romex goes. I said, no, but you do have to figure out how much the cost of one outlet is, because outlets are all the same. They're every 12 feet. So they're a standard unit. We can price it that way, but at first we have to figure out what it costs us to build it. Let's look at it. And, now we dive deeper in and I go, you give you guys Christmas off? Of course I give you guys Christmas off. Okay, so paid holidays. We got to add that to your payroll calculation. And 2 weeks vacation? Well, yeah. Okay, let's add that. Let's add it in. Let's put all of those numbers together. And little by little, like the light bulb is coming on. And the guys, I realized that it's probably like torture that I was what you would call, I wasn't the teacher's pet. I was the teacher's pest. And I was the kid that always was, making paper airplanes and spit.
I was going to say some smart aleck. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to have fun, but I wanted to have fun because why? I was bored. I always summarize school as this. The teacher will explain the lesson in the first 15 minutes and then spend the other 30 minutes trying to explain it to all the kids that didn't get it. So if you pay attention for 15 minutes and understand it, you got 30 minutes to goof off. And, once I started teaching, I realized that there are 3 faces that look back at you. There is the one that's going, nothing. You don't know this. I've been doing this for 30 years. Then there's the guy who's going and has no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then there's the guy who's going, I get
it now.
Get it. And that's the one that suckers you in and keeps you coming back because you actually realized you made a difference.
Well, they have a hunger for it. Hunger for it, right? I mean, listen, the reason I do what I do is because I love educating people. I really do. I never thought I'd be a teacher, but here I am. I teach people about business, but they don't learn it in school. As you said it differently than me, but school teaches you to follow. I teach people how to lead. Right. To think differently, to challenge.
Yeah.
And I'm not political about it, but you have to challenge what you're hearing in the media, because the media is for the 300 million people in North America that have jobs. We're the couple 100,000 people that create jobs.
Correct.
The other people talking to that group is guys like me and you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also, when I look at that, I look at the types of business owners and I say there's 2 different types of business owners. There's the guy that bought himself a job who was pretty much unemployable, opened his own company. He's always working too cheap. He always can't pay his bills. And he's always the thorn in your side because he takes that job from you because he just will drop his pants lower than anybody else.
Let him have it. While he's busy over there, I'm going to be over here.
Well, that's it. And then there's the guy who, is a good craftsman and may or may not be a good businessman. There's a lot of those guys out there. They're really good craftsmen. They know what they're doing. All their focus goes into building, but they don't take the time to learn the business side of it. So, that third animal is the real successful contractor, the guy who knows the means and methods, can build the job, and is a businessman. And when you put those 2 together, those are the guys that become the successful leaders in the industry.
Yeah, I agree with you because I see those guys all the time. Guys and gals.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and do just a couple of minutes of a shameless plug for Bring Back the Trades, because it doesn't matter where the market is. We have trouble first finding people, finding good people, and then keeping people. So those are generally the issues that we face, and it doesn't matter where we are in North America or Australia, New Zealand. Tell me about this a little bit more about the group, Bring Back the Trades. And if people want to get involved, what do they do?
Yeah. So Bring Back the Trades was founded by Steve Turner. He's based in New Hampshire. And basically, Steve is a automotive upholsterer. So he does interior upholstery and convertible tops on classic cars. And he basically got to a point where he could not find anyone to hire and said, this is ridiculous. We really need to start promoting the trades. So he got the idea to form Bring Back the Trades and started out with, doing these just really very simple. At first, he said, well, write an essay and we'll give you a scholarship. And he realized kids aren't going to write an essay. So he said, okay, take your phone and do a video and tell me why you want to be in the trades. And they have to prove that they are either applying to trade school or in a trade school. They've got to have some references, and there's some terms and conditions in there, and the payment goes directly to the trade school, not to the student.
Right.
So, you know, that was his first step in establishing Bring Back the Trades. And then, as we said, he's gotten into doing these skilled trade affairs, which are basically these skilled trades days, or Bring Back the Trades days, are career fairs where they're hands-on participation. And the goal now is to try to get to kids, not even in high school, get to them at middle school, get to the parents.
Earlier.
The key to Bring Back the Trades is informing parents, hey, there are great jobs out there. You know, one of the biggest problems we've got right now is attrition. Okay. The Gen Xers are, you know, somebody said to me, oh, the baby boomers are retiring. I said, pal, I hate to break it to you. The baby boomers are gone. It's all Gen X now. And the Gen Xers are starting to talk about retirement. So, you know, I went and had to take a class last year to renew one of my professional licenses.
Mm.
And the instructor says, we're going to do a little experiment before we start. And he says, how many people in this room are under the age of 30? One guy stood up. How old are you? 29. How many people are under the age of 40? 2 or 3 guys stand up. Who's under 50? The majority of the class stands up. Who's under 60? 3 or 4 more guys stand up. So we are facing a huge deficit of not only knowledge, and not only in the sense of craftsmen, but we've got a bigger problem. And that is, you know, when I got in the trades, we were still getting a decent amount of young, bright kids gravitating towards the trades. Now, what happened was the educators said, no, you bright kids are going to college, and all you dumb kids, pardon the expression, but
yeah, I know.
You got a 40 in science and a 20 in math. Well, you're going to be a plumber or an electrician. So part of the problem we got there, and don't get me wrong, I don't believe those kids were dumb. I believe those kids were bored because they excel at the trades. They're good craftsmen. They can read a tape measure. They can do the math. They can learn to bend pipe and use all the formulas you need to bend conduit. They were certainly not dumb. They just needed to understand what they were applying those concepts to. And once they became relevant, they got very good. But the other thing that happened is we've got a lot of people in the trades, and English is their second language. So they're not as capable of being taken for supervision. And on top of that, what we used to do back in the day was, look, you got a guy who was a good journeyman. He became a foreman, and maybe he became a superintendent. And then that guy, you know what? Let's bring him in the office. We need a new estimator. And he became an estimator. And then he became a project manager. And maybe he became a project executive. Some of those guys became vice presidents and presidents of companies. They went through that whole step, and little by little they learned. But, you know, maybe most of them only had a high school education, but that's all you needed because you got a good foundation in high school. When you left with all those basic skills, you were ready for the workforce.
And then you learned on the job.
You learned on the job. So now you got real world experience. And, you know, a lot of problems we have today is guys can't write a proposal. They don't use capital letters. They don't use punctuation. So they're not capable. So we're backfilling those jobs with kids that went to school for construction management, and everything they've learned is out of a book. And don't get me wrong, there's some good programs out there. There's kids that are working as interns. We see them in the summer. They're out there on the job sites. They're getting concrete on their shoes, and they're learning what it's about. But there's no replacement for experience. And, you know, you can't teach means and methods to a kid in a textbook. It just doesn't work. You know, you can tell them.
You have to feel it. You have to feel it. I'll tell you, one of my son's friends came over a couple of weeks ago, and I was using a power drill, and I needed them to hand it to me. I said, "Hey, hand me the drill."
He didn't know what it was.
Didn't know what it was. I'm like, "It's that thing there." So he hands it to me, and I could tell by the way he was holding it, he'd never held it before. I said, "Hold on with 2 hands, and then pull the trigger there, the black trigger." And it was so much fun. He was, you know,
yeah.
And I'm like, that's a drill. He's like, yeah, my dad doesn't have tools in the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I get it. And listen, the first business I ever started was installing Christmas lights on houses. And the idea
Nice.
came because I said, what can I do that somebody else can't do? But I
Right.
have to be able to do it with what I've got at home. Because I was a kid in high school, right? I had a
Exactly.
Toyota pickup truck.
Sure.
I borrowed my dad's ladder and a staple gun. But I
Yep.
knew people don't have ladders and they're afraid of heights.
Yeah.
But right now, kids aren't learning the manual, how to do things with their hands other than joysticks and controllers, which, by the way, still has a place in construction. It does.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
we're talking about is more of the hands-on, the actually assembly of things, maintenance.
Yeah.
I appreciate you giving me those insights, and this has been an excellent, excellent interview. If somebody wants to
Perfect.
find you in this wide, wide world, where the heck do we find you?
You can email me, Doug at dmelectrical.com. It's as easy as that. And I will try to get back to anybody and everybody who has a question or a thought.
And then bring back the trades. I imagine that's just
Bring Back the Trades. Again, you can go to bringbackthetrades.org and you can look at their website. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm that's probably the only social media format that I really follow and work with. And luckily that works out well for us. I had a Bring Back the Trades post last week that's at 1.3 million views. And
I saw that.
Yeah,
pretty good. Yeah, you
it's
had a lot of people leaning in on that.
comparison of wages between a accountant and an electrician, and just some basic. There's just some numbers there, so just food for thought, and it's been very well received.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you for the work you're doing there. Thank you for
pleasure.
the work you're doing there. Thanks for being on the show. Glad to hear you're a race car driver. That's every other kid's dream. And running an electrical company, obviously successfully, and sharing your story with us. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Have a great day. Well, well, well. Let me thank Doug again for that fantastic interview. We could have gone on for a long time. Race car driver, entrepreneur, helping youth get into the trades. What else could you ask from a guy? Let's get to the next segment here, because what I want to do is help you. Well, first of all, I want to help you laugh. I'm going to tell you a couple of dad jokes here, and they're going to be car themed, so they go right along with what Doug was talking about. But then I want to help you dissect a business problem, and I'm also going to give you step one on how to fix that problem. So stay tuned for that. So first, let's start off with some quick dad jokes. I want to open your mind to the opportunities. I want to get you smiling. You're probably already warmed up from listening to Doug, but here we go. Here's some car themed dad jokes that you can share wherever you like to share these jokes. Hey, did you know that Teslas come with a unique new car smell? It's called Elon Musk. Here's another car joke for you I want you to consider. What has 10 letters and starts with G-A-S? What has 10 letters and starts with G-A-S? Automobile. Boom. There you go. You might have heard this one from me before. What has 4 wheels and flies? Well, that, my friends, is a garbage truck. It has 4 wheels and flies. Oh, you'll have to excuse me here. I got gas today for $1.99 at lunch, but unfortunately, it was from Taco Bell. Oh, those of you who have Taco Bell near your office or your shop or your job site, you're definitely going to be using that. Listen, let's unpack a business problem now. Let's get into the problem. Here's the situation. You've been running your business for a while now. I don't know how long, because we may not have had a chance to meet, but for some reason, it feels like no matter how hard you try, it's tougher and tougher to get ahead. And you might be in a situation where you've said to yourself, your friend, your spouse, look, working harder has stopped working. Like, working harder got you to a certain level, but now you can't get to the next level. And one of the things that I quite often, I don't hear this exactly, but I'm able to piece it back and then repeat it back to people that contact me is, hey, we're running a, let's say a $900,000 business, but we're running it on $750,000 systems. We just haven't evolved. We haven't gotten to that next level. And so that's why we feel stuck, right? Our systems are broken. Our people aren't able to keep up. We're getting the wrong kind of clients. We're working too hard for the money we're making. All those things are problems, right? And you might find that the problem shows up in a couple of ways. First one is, you, my friend, are overworked. You're overworked and you're probably underslept, right? But you're overworked. You're probably underpaid. In some cases, and I know this from many of you in our first conversations, you're working for wages, maybe a little bit of profit. Maybe every once in a while, a project comes along that spits off some nice profit. And so you have that little taste. You've brushed up against the idea that this business could be profitable, but like how would you say, like a sneeze in the sunshine, boom, it's there and it's gone. It's gone. You can't ever get it back. And that frustration just goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? Every day starts to feel like Groundhog Day. And in your quiet moments, when you're driving, or maybe you're hanging out with your family, maybe you finally have time to have a beer or a glass of wine, you're realizing that the impact of the business is spreading. You're tired. Your family's tired of waiting for you. Your buddies have even stopped asking you to golf with them because they always say, he's not going to be able to make it anyways. Don't even bother asking. And you're fed up with saying no all the time. That's where we get the implication of this overarching problem, right? There's an impact to how much money you're even taking out of the business. And so again, that stress keeps mounting. And it's hard to figure out what to do next. First, I'm glad you listened to the show, because this is part of the steps you need to take to pull yourself. This is something you're going to have to solve. I'm here to help you solve it as many ways as I can, but this is taking a step to the future. Anyways, here, let's get into the tool that I think you need today, which is a training that I want you to take part of. And keep in mind, the challenges that you're facing in business as a contractor or a subcontractor, these aren't new. Subcontractors built America, and they built Canada. They built Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and Ireland and England. Subcontractors built everything. Do you think castles were built by the kings themselves? No, they hired subcontractors. Do you think the Great Wall of China was built by some Chinese emperor? I mean, he takes the credit for it, but it was subcontractors, right? I won't talk about Egypt because those are probably slaves. But think about the Roman aqueducts. Those were all built by subcontractors. My point here is, as far back in history as we can go, somebody's needed a job done and they've looked at capable people to do it. So have these systems and processes for managing your own time, for managing teams, for being profitable on jobs. Have they been around before? Has this been tested before? Absolutely. 100 million times. And so I'm going to ask you this very simple question. Why, my friend, are you trying to reinvent the wheel? There's no need. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't. Find out what works. Get the shortcuts. Talk to somebody like me or somebody on my team. We've already been there many times. I've coached thousands of businesses. And I say that actually with a lot of pride. I love what I do. I absolutely love the fact that I've been able to impact and influence so many business owners back to where they want to be. Just this week, we had a training. We run this thing called boot camp. And a gentleman named James, I won't say his last name, James was on the call. And we're in week 4. We're in week 4 right now of a 6-week series. When we first met, he was doing he's a carpenter. He was doing his jobs and he was making wages. So he was marking up things and 10% because he thought that's what you did. And he was making wages on a job. Well, he just got a job. He just won a job for $44,000. He's going to make $10,000 on the job. And he's actually not picking up any of the tools. That's in 4 weeks. He learned how to change his business like that. And, that's one story. James has done a great job. There's many stories like that, but you can be one of those too, right? But you got to find, like anything, you have to have the plan, what we would call blueprints. You've got to be able to work the plan, what you might call project management. I call coaching or training. And then you've got to be able to go and collect from that. You would call it ROI as you would look towards me. So I've got a free training that comes up. I'd love you to sit in. It's a free training. I can't make it any easier. It's free training. In that training, we're going to go over 3 major things that I keep hearing again and again as problems for people. Problems in the areas of time, team, and money. So that's what we're going to be covering in the free training. Time, of course, breaks down into 2 separate things. There's personal time for you as the owner. That's a thing. But then there's, we call it operational time. Because all of us do something different. We make things, we break things. That's the demolition guys out there. You fix, you repair, you service, you install, all of those things. So whatever your operational time is, but there's ways to pull that apart so you can be better, smoother, faster, which equals more profit in less time. Time that you can then go and watch your son's football game. Take your daughter to dance or choir, right? Get home in time so your wife can go to choir, whatever you want to do. but you've got the time to do it. Right now, if you're running hard because you know you got to take care of your family, but they're the last ones you pay attention to, then we've got to change something, right? Anyways, to deal with time, team. So team, it's a short way to say people, and people is this massive concept, but I'm going to take you in the training. I'm going to show you how to get above the people problem by changing the way you approach it, changing your angle of approach. And look, you know how changing your angle of approach works. You've probably hired some kid and you've said, hey, go pull nails out of that 2x4. And he goes there with his kitchen hammer and he's trying to pull out 3-inch nails, 3 1/4, and he's doing it with a kitchen hammer. And you're like, oh my goodness. And you go over, you take a little block of wood and you tuck it up underneath the hammer and you say, here, watch. And with that little bit of leverage, out it comes, right? You guys are all laughing because you've done it before, right? Ask me how much time I've spent back framing. That's the simple system we're talking about. So when it comes to people, having just a slightly different approach, working smarter, not harder, as we just did in that example of pulling nails out of a 2x4, that's what we're talking about here, right? So you've got time. We talked about time. We talked about team. And then the next one is money. Money's another one that exists completely in your mindset before it will happen in your bank account. And what I want to show you is really the secret of millionaires. You know that I wrote a book called Construction Millionaire Secrets. I want you to get that secret about money that most people never, ever think about, because it's tiny little changes that all add up. And once those changes are all lined up properly, actually things get really, really easy, really easy. The hard part is getting them in order. Then the easier part is keeping them in order. And then the nice part is when you get to put a big wad of cash in the front pocket of your jeans. Anyways, if you want to join for the webinar, it's actually a training. So if you want to join me for the free training, just send me a text message. Now, the cell phone number has changed. And the reason it's changed is because old dum-dum here, Dommy, put his cell phone number on the internet. And I get all sorts of wacky phone calls from all sorts of people after many, many years of running this podcast. They have scraped my phone number and made my life a living, interesting place. So I changed the mobile phone number for you to text to. I hope you guys understand. But you can still text, right? So text to this number, 315-903-7853, and just say free training. And then I'll know what you're talking about. And then we'll send you the invite and the registration link. And then you'd come to the training. Come to the training with a pen and paper. That's it. You're going to be taking a lot of notes that day, but that's it. Just send me a text message at 315-903-7853 and say free training, right? So free training is the cue that you give me that says, we know here because we've got systems, right? We'll send you the link and then you register. So anyways, text me. You can do this if you're listening on your phone right now. Just shoot a message off to 315-903-7853 and then just say free training, and then we'll get you into it. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Doug. I'm looking forward to hearing about your results, hopefully meeting you face-to-face one day. In this crazy world that we've got of podcasts and the internet, sometimes, I'm sitting here talking to a screen, but there's real people on the other end. Actually, James, the story I was just telling earlier, he and I met through the podcast. We just happened to be in the same city. We just happened to meet for coffee, and we just had a great conversation. He's an awesome guy, and look at what he's doing now. He's just, what did I say, 4 or 5 weeks, he's completely turned around his business. Totally different guy, totally different business. And I'm really happy to watch him do that. All right, folks, thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you soon.